For many Romans of the first century, this was the emperor Rome never had. His name was Germanicus Julius Caesar, one of the most important generals in the history of the Roman Empire, considered the ideal heir. Germanicus won the hearts of the Roman people and his soldiers, and was even compared to Alexander the Great himself. However, what not many people know is that Germanicus almost died at the hands of his own soldiers, who rebelled against him. Let's learn the story of this Roman general. Germanicus was born on May 24th, 15 BC, and was none other than the grandson of Rome's first emperor Augustus, as well as one of Rome's greatest generals, Mark Antony. His parents were Nero Claudius Drusus and Antonia Minor, daughter of Mark Antony. Germanicus's lineage was no small matter. He was part of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, the highest royalty of ancient Rome. His personal name is unknown, but the agnomen Germanicus was a tribute given to him for the victories his father had achieved in Germania, and over time it became a prestigious title that Germanicus also carried throughout his life. In 9 BC, Germanicus received sad news. His father, Drusus, was returning from a mission on the Elbe when he tragically fell from his horse. Tiberius, Drusus's brother, joined him, but although he survived the initial accident, a cruel infection led to Drusus's death a month later. His body was brought back to Rome, but in the fields of Mogontiacum, the legionaries erected a monument that still stands today as a testament to their enduring loyalty. Before departing, Drusus had written a letter to Tiberius in which he expressed concern over the way Rome was being governed by Augustus, and even raised the idea of restoring the Republic. In honor of Drusus, the Roman Senate built an arch on the Via Appia with the letters Germ, representing his conquests on the Elbe and his valor as a general. They also awarded him the title Germanicus, which passed on to his son. This special title would not only be a tribute, but also something that would resonate throughout time, being used by many important members of the Julio-Claudian family, including Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. Drusus's death not only brought the loss of a father, but also marked the beginning of a difficult journey for the young Germanicus, who, as the eldest son, became the head of the family. Years passed, and in 4 AD, Augustus's chosen successor, Gaius Caesar, died from a battle wound, triggering a series of events that would change the course of imperial history. With this power vacuum, Augustus looked to Germanicus as a possible alternative, who by then was about 18 years old. However, the influence of Livia, Augustus's wife, convinced him to consider Tiberius, his stepson, as a more sensible option. Thus, Tiberius was adopted on June 26th, 4 AD, marking the beginning of a new stage in imperial succession. But there was a special condition. Tiberius had to also adopt Germanicus, ensuring that he would be next in line for succession. This adoption not only changed the course of his lineage, but also transferred it from the Claudian to the Julian dynasty. Following Roman tradition regarding names, he adopted the name Julius Caesar, while retaining his agnomen, becoming Julius Caesar Germanicus. In this way, although Augustus was not his biological grandfather, Tiberius's adoption of Germanicus made him Augustus's grandson. To strengthen the family ties even further, Augustus arranged for Germanicus to marry his granddaughter Agrippina. Together, they would have 9 children. 2 years after his adoption, Germanicus was appointed quaestor at the age of 20, which surprised Roman society as he did so 4 years earlier than the law allowed. That same year, he was sent to Illyria to help Tiberius suppress the revolt of the Pannonians and Dalmatians. Germanicus's mission was not only a test of military skill, but an opportunity to demonstrate the strength and determination of the empire. With a diverse army of recruited citizens and former slaves, he joined Tiberius in Sicily, Illyria, where the challenge awaited the Romans in the mountains where the rebels had taken refuge. The mountainous terrain presented unique challenges for the Romans. The rebels, experts in attacking from high fortresses, forced Tiberius to innovate, dividing his army into smaller detachments in a war of attrition against the insurgents. This tactic required patience and precision. Germanicus's strategic presence in this scenario did not go unnoticed. His detachments acted against the rebel tribes, achieving several victories. Meanwhile, the Romans applied a scorched earth policy, seeking to deprive the rebels of resources and undermine their resistance. In 8 AD, a turning point came when Bato, the Brucian, a rebel commander, betrayed his leader Pinus, handing him over to the Romans in exchange for a pardon. However, this truce was short-lived, as Bato was defeated and executed by his former ally. These events left the Pannonians in disarray, paving the way for the Romans to subdue the region without much resistance. This also provided a valuable bonus for the army, as 8 cohorts of auxiliaries were added to the Roman ranks. After winning this war in Illyria, Germanicus returned to Rome in 9 AD and was treated with great praise, even receiving a kind of medal of honor called Ornamenta Triumphalia. He also received a special title of praetor, which not only authorized him to run for consul earlier than usual, but also allowed him to speak in the Roman Senate right after the consuls, demonstrating that he was becoming more influential. During his consulship, Germanicus not only defended the accused in court, which reinforced his popularity, but also organized the Ludi Martialis, which included grandiose events such as the release of 200 lions in the Circus Maximus. This combination of judicial skills and spectacular events consolidated his position as an admired figure in Rome. That same year, Rome was shaken by the disaster of the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, in which 3 Roman legions under the command of Varus were decimated by a coalition of Germanic tribes led by Arminius. At this point, Augustus faced a dilemma: the need for more troops to support military campaigns. As a result, it was necessary to adopt conscription, a highly unpopular measure that reflected the urgency of recruiting soldiers. The shortage of volunteers led to extreme actions, such as the state purchasing slaves, freeing them, and converting them into soldiers to contain the imminent threat of Arminius and the Germans. Tiberius was quickly sent to the Rhine frontier, and all available troops were called in from other provinces to reinforce the army. Curiously, however, the much-feared Germanic invasion of Roman territories never materialized. The Germanic warriors, following the historical practice of many tribal armies, dispersed, returning to their homelands to celebrate the glory they had won. In time, Tiberius grew stronger in the region, conducting punitive expeditions against the Germanic tribes, and this began to restore Roman reputation. The confidence shaken by Varus's defeat slowly began to recover. In 11 AD, Germanicus, now proconsul, was sent with Tiberius to repair the damage. Germanicus was now about 27 years old and had gained much experience during the rebellion of the Pannonian tribes. According to Tacitus, when Germanicus visited the site of the Battle of Teutoburg, he ordered the physical remains of the soldiers to be gathered and buried in proper graves, as the bodies of these soldiers had been left to rot on the battlefield. After honoring the fallen soldiers in the Teutoburg forest with a proper burial, Germanicus intensified his pursuit of Arminius. Arminius took advantage of the terrain's difficulty, attacking the Romans in the swampy forest, but they managed to establish a defensive camp after overcoming the mud's challenges. In 14 AD, just as Tiberius ascended to the Roman throne, he increased the military presence on the Germanic frontier by sending 6 legions beyond the Rhine, all under Germanicus's command. Like his father, Germanicus was very popular and respected by Roman soldiers. But the death of Augustus in 14 AD triggered a series of events that shook the army. The legions, accustomed to the constant presence of the princeps, now faced uncertainty and discontent. As a result, unrest broke out, fueled by complaints about harsh pay cuts and the bribes needed to alleviate the fatigue imposed by the centurions. The final straw occurred in Lower Germania, where the experienced commander, Aulus Caecina, known for his loyalty to the imperial family, led an unexpected revolt. The 4 legions under his command completely lost discipline, highlighting the widespread discontent among the soldiers. The centurions, the initial target of the revolt, were arrested and flogged, marking a period of unrest in the ranks. While Germanicus was overseeing tax collection in Gaul, news of the revolt made him return in haste. When Germanicus arrived at the army camp, he was not met with a warm welcome. The soldiers were unhappy and expressed their grievances in unusual ways. They complained to Germanicus about delays in dismissals and low pay, with some even suggesting the idea of proclaiming him emperor instead of Tiberius. Germanicus tried to restore order by threatening to take his own life, even drawing his sword in front of the soldiers. However, the result was not what he expected. Some tried to stop him, but others offered their own swords for him to fulfill his threat. The situation demanded immediate action, and Germanicus decided to forge a letter from Tiberius, promising to meet all the demands of the mutineers. The false letter brought brief calm among the soldiers, but when Tiberius's emissaries arrived, Germanicus's deception was uncovered. The risk of another revolt threatened not only Germanicus, but also his wife, Agrippina, and his son, Caligula, who was only 2 years old. Desperate, Germanicus made an emotional appeal to his men, asking them to allow him to remove his family from the imminent danger. Moved by Germanicus's tears, the soldiers relented. He managed to persuade them to impose discipline among themselves, taking internal responsibility for punishing the rebel leaders. Behind the scenes, Germanicus subtly coordinated the elimination of the revolt's leaders, avoiding direct resentment against himself. In addition to the executions, Germanicus implemented other concessions to appease the soldiers, such as immediately discharging those with expired service time. However, some of these changes were temporary, and the term of service soon returned to 25 years. Moreover, to fulfill a promise made to the troops, he not only paid the legions, but went further, distributing money even to those who did not need it. This gesture was intended not only to meet the soldiers' material needs, but also to consolidate loyalty, which would be essential for future campaigns. With the mutiny under control, Germanicus did not shy away from his military role. After the campaign was over, he led a punitive column against the Marsi, a Germanic people settled along the Upper Ruhr. Without hesitation, Germanicus ordered the massacre of the Marsi villages and the looting of their territory. Now, with the legions by his side, Germanicus was determined to cross the river to find Arminius and avenge Rome's defeat. Before we continue, if you're interested in learning more about Germanicus's revenge in full detail, we have a video on our channel that covers it extensively. I'll leave a link in the description, so make sure to check it out. In the following years, he led the Roman legions in a series of incursions beyond the Rhine River, facing the Germanic tribes. In 15 AD, Germanicus managed to recover the standards lost by Varus's legions and defeated Arminius's forces at the Battle of the Weser River. To consolidate his victory, he conducted punitive expeditions, devastating the lands of the Carusi and other Germanic tribes. However, despite these military successes, Germanicus was called back to Rome by Tiberius in 16 AD. The emperor, perhaps worried about his nephew's growing popularity and fearful that he might become a threat to his power, decided to end the campaigns in Germania. The Roman frontier was set along the Rhine River, and Tiberius opted for a defensive policy instead of new conquests. Back in Rome, Germanicus was honored with a triumph in 17 AD and was given a new command in the east, where he was tasked with resolving diplomatic and military conflicts. However, his mission in the east would be his last. In 19 AD, while in Antioch, Germanicus suddenly fell ill. His condition quickly worsened, and although the exact causes of his death remain a mystery, many suspected that he had been poisoned. Accusations were directed at Gnaeus Calpurnius Piso, the governor of Syria, who had had conflicts with Germanicus and was rumored to have acted on Tiberius's orders. It is important to note, however, that these were only rumors, and there is no definitive proof to support the claim that his death was a result of foul play. Germanicus's death provoked a wave of grief and fury in Rome. He was a beloved figure among the people and the army, and his passing left a void in the Julio-Claudian dynasty. His wife Agrippina and their children returned to Rome, where Agrippina would become an influential voice in imperial politics, and their youngest son, Caligula, would eventually rise to power as emperor. The tragic death of Germanicus marked the beginning of a series of tensions that would unfold in the coming years within the imperial family. Thus ended the promising career of the general who could have changed Rome's history, shrouded in an aura of mystery and betrayal that still echoes in the history of the empire.